Black and White. It's your girl who swirls, Chris Karazin, and I am with a kind of a famous person. I am speaking to the lovely Cassia Murray, who is one half of the interracial couple that has sort of taken Facebook by storm. They have a gorgeous little daughter who just turned 1.
Yellow. Yeah, this is Jonah Harding again. Doing another video. And just wanted to kind of like elaborate on this swirling thing that's going on now. You got this lady christelyn karazin right here. She's like the #1 promoter of it. I guess no, the white man, so-called white man. No such a thing as white people. But so-called white man basically hired this woman to do I guess a PR campaign for so-called white men to marry black women and for black women to marry white men. So when this woman says that she's about promoting interracial dating, she's not about that. She's really just about, she's just a real, what do you call it? How can I put it? A madam for black women to date white men. But I want to deal with the aspect of this socio-politically aspect of it that a lot of people are not touching on and don't even see. Okay, because you know, I'm a kind of guy, I deal with history, and basically I'm actually paying attention to what's going on in the world. And basically, as far as this swirling thing and white men dating black women, because that's what it really is. Nobody uses that term when it's the other way around, when it's a black man dating a so-called black man dating a so-called white woman. There's no real term for that. You know what I mean? So this woman had to come up with a catchy slogan, you know, to make it more cool. So that's where you get your swirling thing, or whoever came up with it. I don't know if that was her exactly, but you know, basically the socio-political ramifications of so-called white men dating black women openly is actually an indicator for something. It's a marker, and not a lot of people are seeing this or even understanding what it really means. Okay? Because basically, the so-called white man, you know, let's deal with reality here. We're not going to deal with your socio-political bullshit and your utopian fantasies. We're going to deal with actual reality in this video, okay? Which you so-called black women are far further removed from reality than any people on the entire planet. You're further gone than anybody. There's nobody on the planet more mentally gone than the so-called black woman. You know what I mean? But basically the ramifications of this swirling thing are this. Basically, it's an indicator for the decline of the so-called white man in the world. Okay? Because now, when you look at history, everywhere on the planet where the so-called white man is, outside of the Caucasus Mountains of South Georgia, Russia, Europe, all these lands, I'm talking about the majority of Europe, Asia, Africa, America, the Americas, anywhere where the so-called white man is or is in ruling or has colonized, so-called colonized, which really is basically just stealing. All those places where he's at, basically he got by robbery and basically murder and robbery. He stole it. Okay. So his power structure is based on white supremacy. You know, people complain about white supremacy. You even have so-called white people complaining about white supremacy because they know how prevalent it is. But in reality, without so-called white supremacy, the so-called white man would be at the bottom of society. He might even be a slave. You know, he'd be going into slavery, okay? Because you got all these indigenous people that will fucking remember what he did to their ancestors and what he's doing to the environment, what he's doing to the minorities in the world right now. And as soon as these people get an upper hand, they're going to fucking slaughter this guy, man. They're going to slaughter these white people, man. You know, you're going to have the original owners of this land, the natives and the so-called Hispanics. They're going to flood this place and regain the land that was taken from them. Without white supremacy. So without, and as far as our so-called Negro men, no, we'll be beating the shit out these so-called white people and taking everything that they took from us, because everything they have was stolen from us anyway. Okay. So this is why the system of white supremacy has to be in place, because if it's not, the so-called white man would be a slave right now. He'd be in the field getting his back whipped just like us, and we'd be taking and raping his women and making them bed wenches like he did us. And that's the reality of it. So they need white supremacy to survive. Without it, they're fucked. They'll be under subjection to the people that you call minorities. The men, not the women, the men. And you women would be right in subjection underneath them. Unless you want your ass whooped and you want to get killed. You know what I'm saying? But that's where we're headed. See, that's where we're headed. Because basically the system of white supremacy is nearly at an end. Okay, it's at an end. Because in order to uphold white supremacy, you have to look at what it was based on as far as face value is concerned. It was really based on rape, robbery, murder, and slavery. But for face value, it was based on the so-called white family structure. Okay? That's why you had all those shows in the early 60s and the 70s and 80s, like Leave It to Beaver, and you had all these little family-oriented so-called white people shows, which was about promoting the so-called white family structure. Okay. Now your so-called white elites, which don't give a fuck about the average peon white, so-called white person, they basically have poisoned the well, so to speak. They've destroyed the family, the so-called white man's family structure. Okay. Just like he's destroyed ours, you know what I'm saying? But he's destroyed it in more subtle ways for the so-called white people. Okay, because he had to. You know what I mean? As far as this homosexuality movement, this LGBT movement is decimating the so-called white man's, because white supremacy, the foundation of it is the so-called white man's family structure. When you take that away, you take the legs from under the table of white supremacy. Okay? And when you take the legs from under the table, what does it do? It falls. Okay? So when you destroy the white, like LGBT movement, now you got you got the LGBT movement, man. You got all these, you got women's libs. You know, you got the what do you call it? Yeah, women's libs. You got the feminist movement, which is basically the same shit. All these things are attacks on the so-called white man's family structure. And plus the system is geared towards women in the household. So, you know, a lot of these men are basically subjugated to these women, man, in this society. Like, you know, you get a divorce, the woman takes half of your shit, if not more. And, you know, the way the society's set up, it's a woman worshiping society. Okay. So, yes, the so-called white man walking down the street with anything other than a so-called white woman is basically a marker for his demise, because he can't hold on to white supremacy if he's being a faggot, if his women are being lesbians, and if he's fucking with black women. You can't protect your house if you're too busy building someone else's. I don't know if you understand that. Or you can't protect a house if you're busy in somebody else's house. Put it like that. I'll use that example. But, yeah, so what's going to happen? We're on the verge of World War III and the financial collapse. Okay? And financially, when these dollar collapses, first of all, it's going to be chaos in these streets, man. And it's going to be race wars. It's going to be race riot. It's going to be all that. And America is an empire. Its army is stretched way too thin. It's going to fall for the same reason. Just look at history. Look why Rome fell. It's going to fall for the same reasons, man. You know what I mean? Okay? As far as the so-called white man dating black women openly, I mean, just look when he was in the heyday of his power, when he was in his real power, when he could just lynch, when he could have public executions for black people, so-called black people, when he could just lynch you at will. That's when he was in his real power. You know what I mean? And his power has been declining. Hey, all good things and bad things come to an end eventually. Okay? And in those days, when he wanted to fuck a black woman, he took her in a tool shed or something, man. He didn't fuck you openly, man. You know what I mean? He took you in a tool shed and raped your black ass. Whether you wanted to or not. A lot of you probably a lot of you women just probably were going willingly because you're a bunch of bird brains. But whatever. You know. But the fact that he's walking up and down the street with the so-called black woman and marrying the black women is a sign of his decline, his demise. He's going down. You know what I mean? Because the black woman is like the black woman and the white woman are total polar opposites. Okay? The so-called black woman is a symbol of a man settling for something. A so-called white woman nowadays is a trophy. Okay? The white woman is a trophy woman. Black women are not trophy women. Okay? Black women are the bronze. If you were the black woman, you got the bronze. You didn't get the gold. You didn't get the gold. You didn't get the silver. Your ass got the bronze, man. You take the low seat, man. And that's what the so-called white man is doing when he deals with the so-called black woman. He's taking the low seat. Okay? All right? Because, like I said, the so-called white woman and the so-called white man are the backbone of white supremacy. Without white supremacy, you're going to have the natives and the Negroes get together, wake up and realize who they are, okay? Who they really are, okay? Which are Israelites. And they're going to run over this so-called white man and slaughter them, man. And that's what's about to happen, man. And the only thing that's been preventing it from happening all these years is white supremacy. When you take away the white supremacy, the so-called white man is a sitting duck, and he's going to get his ass slaughtered in these streets by every minority that you can imagine. And that's where this future's headed. That's where this place is headed. You know, as far as this financial collapse is concerned. So you so-called white people, when you're with a black woman, you have abandoned your post at white supremacy. You have abandoned your post, and you have left your base open. And when you leave your base open, it's pretty much over for your ass. Okay? All right? So yeah, swirling means the decline and decay of white supremacy and the white race. The black woman is the marker of your end. Believe it or not. Peace.